This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so let's open the regular meeting for Clatsop Planning Commission, Tuesday, January the 12th, 2021. Have the roll call, please.
Yes, Bruce Francis,
I'm here.
Chris Farrar,
Present.
John Orr,
Present.
Lum Kwong. I see him on the screen, yes.
Good.
Myrna Patrick,
Present.
Nadia Gardner,
Present.
and Robert Strickland, as we've just discussed, is excused.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll take a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as presented.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as adopted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And then we'll go into our annual election of chair and vice chair. I'd like to open with the election of chair first. Do I have a nomination for election of chair?
I move to nominate Nadia Gardner as Chair of Clatsop County Planning Commission.
Do we have a
I
second?
second.
Good. It's been moved and seconded that Nadia Gardner be chair. Any discussion?
Well,
Okay,
I'd like to just say that I think Nadia has shown herself to be really engaged in the commission and seems to have all the right qualities to lead a meeting well, and has an understanding of what makes for a good meeting and a good commission. And I think she'd do a very good job at taking over for Bruce, that's done such a great job over all these years.
I agree with you, Chris. I think that's good. Anybody else want to comment?
I concur with Commissioner Farrar's comments on Nadia Gardner's nomination qualifications, and also thanks to Bruce for his exemplary service.
Thank you. Okay, well, if there are no other comments, we'll take the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Is anybody opposed? That makes it unanimous for those of us here. Congratulations, Nadia. I know you will do a good job.
Thank you. I will.
I feel very comfortable handing it over to you. You're very.
I'll try to do my best. You're following in your very capable footsteps. I really have appreciated your leadings. Thank you. And you.
Okay. So now for the vice chair. We'll take a nomination for vice chair in a second.
I'd like to nominate Myrna Patrick if she is willing.
I would prefer not to be vice president, but thank you.
Okay.
I would like to nominate Chris Farrar because I think he is one of our long-term members.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, Myrna, but I respectfully decline, and I would nominate John Orr for the position.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been nominated John Orr be the vice chair and been seconded. Any comments? Hearing none and hearing
I'll
no
make a
opposition from
comment because I can't just sit here quietly.
Okay.
I think John will do a fine job as vice chair. So far, we haven't called much on vice chairs, but it's important to have one, and John is certainly qualified and pretty well versed in land use issues. So I think he'll do a fine job.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, then I'll take the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. That's unanimous. Great. Well, thank you, everybody. That was good that we got that out of the way so uncontentiously. It was a good nomination and a good result. Thank you very much. So we'll take any business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a brief presentation about any land use planning issue or county concern that's not on the agenda. Do we have anybody, Gail?
We have one member of the public, Carol Johansson. I don't know if she has anything that she wanted to present to the commission. I also see that Nicole Bales from the Daily Historian is on the meeting as well.
Okay. So Carol Johansson, would you like to make your submission? Looks like she's muted.
Yeah, hit the unmute button.
Okay, well, let's go to Nicole Bales. Nicole, is there anything you wish to say at this meeting?
Oh, no, I'm just listening. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, because we can't get Carol on the line here, we'll move on to the comprehensive plan update. Oh, sorry, no, to the minutes. Minutes of the December 8, 2020 regular meeting. We haven't done those yet, so I'll take a motion in a second to approve them as presented.
I move we accept the minutes for the November 10th meeting as presented.
Would you like to change that to December 8th?
Yes, I'd like to change that to December 8th.
Okay.
Just testing you.
Well, sometimes I catch things like that. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the December 8, 2020 minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain because I was absent.
Correct. So if we mark down Nadia as abstaining and everybody else approved. Oh, sorry. Any opposed? Hearing none, then everybody else did approve it. So now we're on to the comprehensive plan update.
Yeah, there's really no update this month. The committees are continuing to work on Goal 5, and this month they'll be discussing wilderness areas, natural areas, and open spaces. Next month in February, we'll complete the first go through of Goal 5 with energy resources, and then tying in with that, we're going to pull in Goal 13, which is energy conservation, and that will start in February.
All right.
One quick question. I don't even know if it's appropriate for you to comment, but I know you put out a plea to the residents of the county for participation in the Citizen Advisory Committee meetings. And I wondered, have you received many applications or any applications, or how's that going?
We've received 2 so far, and I don't have them in front of me, so I can't tell you off the top of my head who they were, but I believe our deadline for applications is sometime in February, and that was at the request of the Board of Commissioners when we did the last round of appointments in December. They wanted staff to go out again to do another call for applicants.
Okay, and can you just remind me, you're looking for them, I think, in Elsie Jewell especially, and in Lewis and Clark, is that right?
Right, those would be the 2 committees that really need the most assistance right now. Northeast has been very steady, as has Southwest Coastal, and Clatsop Plains has also been pretty steady. So.
Any other questions of Gail?
I'm sorry, what was that second one? So it's Elsie Jewell, and what's the other one?
Lewis and Clark Olney Waluski.
Okay.
So next would be the special projects update.
Okay, so all of the areas that are highlighted in yellow are the places where new things have occurred since you reviewed this in December. So the latest on the Clatsop Plains Elk project, we had a board work session on January 5th, where specifically they looked at the issue of culling and whether or not it should be included in the Declaration of Cooperation. The consensus of the board at that meeting was to include it and to have more discussion at the January 27th meeting when the declaration will go to the board for final approval. The declaration is a non-binding agreement, but it does contain the commitments that the county is going to agree to moving forward in terms of creating and implementing tools that can be used to reduce interactions, especially negative interactions between elk and humans. The other place where we had some updates, we have a transportation growth management grant to work on a tsunami evacuation facilities improvement plan. That grant was awarded in 2019. In late 2020, ODOT, working with staff from the county and staff from Department of Land Conservation and Development, selected the consultant for that project, which is Parametrics, and we had our initial kickoff meeting on January 7th with representatives from staff, ODOT, and the consultant. And you should be expecting probably sometime around April that they will be conducting their first public open house on the project. On the code consolidation project, that went into effect on January 8th. So we do have on the land use planning page on the county's website are all the documents, the new updated documents for the new land and water development and use code. There's also a document called the crosswalk that will have the new code citations compared to the old code citations. So if you need to reference something back and forth, if it's easier for you, there's a document to help you do that. And then finally, with the resiliency project, we are working on two different parts on that. One is a review for the North Coast Business Park property to determine a feasibility study for development there. And the county has chosen McKinsey as a consulting firm that will complete that work. And the other track of that, there is the county is looking to hire a consultant to do a public works feasibility study, which will look at their needs for space and equipment right now and then out into the future. It'll look at site selection costs and cost benefit analysis on those. And so we interviewed 3 firms last week, and the county did choose McKinsey to work on that project as well. And those are all the updates I have.
Thank you. Okay, so are there any other comments? Yes, Nadia.
Yeah, so I just read in the paper about the elk project that the culling has gone to the top of the list as a high priority, which as a elk lover is worrying to me. And I'm wondering, you know, I had asked you before about predation, natural predation. So we're talking now about hunters, but is there a way to spur some conversation about protecting their natural predators as a part of that culling rather than just using hunters, but actually maybe limiting hunting for cougar, for example, in the county? How would we plug in and try to get at least that considered if we're talking about killing a bunch of elk?
I mean, you can certainly, at this point, I think it's a little late in the discussion. You can certainly bring that, I think, to the Board of Commissioners when they have their business agenda item on January 27th. And that would probably be an appropriate time to bring that up. We did have several public open meetings throughout this event that were open to the public. I know Robert Strickland came, I think, to all of them. But as far as I'm aware, I'm not sure that there are a lot of natural predators in this particular area of the county that are in place right now to actually manage that elk herd. That's part of the reason why their population numbers have been increasing, is that they don't have natural predators in that particular area of the county.
I think they do see them, but people don't like it when they see them. But yeah, because they've definitely seen cougar in the plains and in Fort Stevens, and then in the Lewis and Clark National Historic Park too at Fort Clatsop. Which, yeah, it's surprising to me actually with those staff being involved that it didn't come up. But at least it's something a little more.
Yeah,
natural.
so there were four subcommittees. The elk behavior subcommittee is the one that is working on the culling issue, and I was not involved in that subcommittee. I was on the land use subcommittee. So
I appreciate that. And then my other question comment is around the. I think you passed around the natural hazards plan, which you didn't mention, I think, as part of your status input, your status update. But that's another one that I feel like from a planning commission standpoint is really important for us to know about and to put comment in. The plan is 550 pages long or something crazy. And you have like less than 2 weeks to put in public comment, and it ends, I think, January 15th. So the end of this week. I'm wading through it, and a couple things kind of stand out to me. One is that there's a lot of discussion of climate change and how some of the what's considered natural hazards are exacerbated by climate change impacts, and of course that's not natural, that's human caused. But one thing that's left out is that that each municipality that's participating plays a role in causing that climate change, and what is not brought up is the opportunity for all of these organizations to have their own climate mitigation plans as a preventative method. Of course, each individual one has a very small impact, but as a group, they could have a larger one. And of course, as a state, as a nation, international, it all adds up. And that strikes me. And I also feel like a lot of the recommendations on mitigating the actual changes, so for example, coastal erosion, are very weak. The lists they don't talk about strategic retreat, for example, in terms of coastal erosion, and in some areas that's going to be necessary. So I encourage everybody to read it, or at least skim it and look at the recommendations and put in some comments so that it can be a little bit more of a robust document. I'm very impressed by the addition of all the climate change discussion, but I just think it could be strengthened, especially from this group, from a land use perspective.
Thank you. Anybody else got comments? Okay, we had a time to look at our project status report. Does anybody have comments on it? No one has comments. Okay, so let's move to the other business, which is discussion to identify and prioritize the top 5 work session topics for 2021. How do you want to attack that? There's a lot of, I see a whole stack of things on there. Gail, how do you want to handle that discussion?
I think that's completely at the discretion of the Planning Commission. I know that the Planning Commission, some of the members have expressed a desire to meet monthly, regardless of whether there are any actual cases to be heard. So all that I'm trying to do is to prepare a program so I can allocate staff time and resources and to focus on the areas that the Planning Commission would like to discuss over the upcoming 12 months.
Nadia, you got comments on that?
Well, I continue to be interested in affordable housing. I think as a group, we have people on here that's definitely, I mean, especially considering the COVID crisis and the amount of people that are becoming homeless in our county as a result. I know that we made some general recommendations. They went to the commission. I'm not sure what the next step is with the commission, but I'd love for it to be like they look at those and they send stuff back to us and we keep working on it. I think we had a few things on there that we had talked about. And of course, we have the short-term rental work session coming up on February 24th, I think. So that also plays into it. So I think we were looking at ADUs in unincorporated areas, not on working lands, and potentially limiting short-term rentals were two things. I can't remember the whole list, but there are a few things we wanted to work on. And I'd also love to just kind of be updated on what the cities are doing and whether we're making any progress, especially in this time of crisis. And I wanted to bring up one thing that I was thinking about. I know John is interested in, but we had talked about allowing recreational vehicles, RVs, in this crisis period, where they're not allowed in the long term as housing in the county currently. And one example that I thought was pretty cool that is something the county could do is, I can't remember which municipality it was, but they had used CARE Act money to do an RV facility basically at the fairgrounds. And so that was a way that you could, we had talked, I think we had previously talked about churches have tended to do that in cities, but we do have actually even an RV area at our fairgrounds that could be used for something like that. And the idea is that you would have then people who are in crisis situation living in RVs at the fairgrounds with bathrooms and showers ideally, and potentially even services available to them rather than having them dispersed throughout the landscape. And I thought that was a really cool thing that one group was doing with the federal money that was directed towards COVID. So thought I'd share that with the group as something of interest that could be done in the county versus the cities.
Okay, Chris, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just wasn't certain whether we were jumping right forward to Exhibit A or whether we were going to look at that long list of all sorts of topics that are shown just immediately before that on pages 10, 11, and 12. But I'm all for just jumping to the list that I think Nadia is referring to. And I did have it. I picked my favorite 5, and affordable housing is on the list. I'm not sure I'd prioritize them, but I think transportation is also very high on the list. I think parks and natural areas are also on the list because if we wait too long, there won't be some places that might be the best places for parks and recreation. You need to get in early and hold that land for that kind of use. And I think we need to deal with our current parks that seem to be underfunded and undermaintained and underutilized. So for those reasons, I have it in there. I also had water resources in there because I think, again, we need to get on this issue pretty early on. Right now, there's plenty of water around here right now, obviously, but water comes and goes seasonally and also by location. And so I think we need to really start working on having a more complete understanding of our water resources and some of the particular problem areas that the county may have in the near future and the longer range. And then I thought that we really have to dedicate a lot of time on the comprehensive plan updates, I think. So, I mean, I think every time the drafts from the reviews by DCLC or ELCD or whichever acronym is right, that we need to really take those seriously and go through them carefully and make our input that would then be available to the county commissioners. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Well, I see that Robert's come on board. Robert, can you hear us?
Maybe he's muted.
I can
Well,
hear you.
oh, good.
I am sitting in front of CMH and using the Staples connection over here right now.
Well, we thank you for your initiative. That's great. Okay, well, we're
You,
pretty much through with the
you can
meeting.
thank her for driving me.
So, did you have any comments on what priority items we should have to discuss for 2021?
No, because I have again been without CenturyLink since Saturday, and they told me that our service was restored without it being restored, so they'll be in tomorrow. So no, I have been appropriately mute and out of contact with the world. But I'm counting on the nearly departed Bruce to have prioritized this properly.
Thank you, Robert. Well, to update you, we've got Nadia as chair and John Orr as vice chair. So we've managed to get 2 members to take over here. I think
so Nadia is chair and John is vice chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a good selection. So
I think
one of the things that I'd like to bring up, though, is that we're kind of prioritizing the issues that should be discussed in 2021. But I think the point comes to be discussed is whether we need to have a meeting every month and how we're going to prioritize that, because it's a lot of time for staff. And, you know, how does everybody feel on that? Because do we need to have a meeting every month? Or can we prioritize these issues that we're speaking about into other issues of business that would prioritize and would help out staff in minimizing the number of meetings that are absolutely required to conduct the business that's at hand? Should we be lumping it into a bigger meeting only when we've got real business to discuss, you know, like hearings and things like that? Any comments on that?
Yeah, Bruce, can you hear me?
Yes, John.
Okay. Well, I actually wanted to pipe in, but I tamed my normally aggressive nature to allow an opening. So I did want to speak on the subject of the prioritization, and it's nice to find that we have such agreement of values. I'm pretty much in agreement with everything that Commissioner Farrar said. I'm concerned about the water resources. I'm from Michigan, and I watch the stories there about how Nestle Corporation is buying up land and buying up water resources. And, you know, we have our patchwork of jurisdiction in terms of the county. But to the extent that we are able to advocate for the water resources of our people and of, I suppose, the animals as well here, that seems to have a significant priority. We have an obligation to do that in concrete ways, such as the buffer zones. I read somewhere that the buffer zones for drinking water are 20 feet, and the buffer zones by the Forest Practices Act or otherwise is 60 feet. I don't know if that's exactly right, but we do need to at least be a voice if we can't be a legislative advisory force for the county about protecting the water supply, and like everything else with the parks as well, you have to plan ahead. And I'm just really concerned about private interests getting a hold of public resources, and to the extent we as planning commissioners can help combat that. You know, it'd be nice to see other jurisdictions step in the direction that I guess Arch Cape has, certainly Astoria has, by getting the land for their watershed to supply the needs, the potable drinking water needs of their people. And as far as the affordable housing situation, I mean, that just speaks for itself. I've been given to understand that we're on the precipice of another significant disappearance of housing or people that are able to afford housing. And this is happening in every single state, in almost every single community here. And to stand by idly is just to alter the landscape, political, economic, and psychological of our people. So we need to really be heard as a commission on that. So that's what I have to say about that. And what were you, the other thing, the most recently that you brought up for comment was the meetings, the need for meetings. And I want to be especially sensitive to the needs of staff. The demands on their time is great. And I for one, don't need to have a meeting every month just on general principles. If there's something we really need to comb through, even if there's no application pending, we should definitely take all needed time to do so. But that's my 2 cents.
I agree with your 2 cents, John. Are there any other comments regarding that? Because I think that's an important.
I agree with John's comments. We shouldn't meet unless we need to meet. And as Gail suggested, that we should condense our subjects into meetings maybe every other month or whenever we need them.
All right. Does anybody else feel that way? Because that's the way I agree with John. Yeah. Lamb, yes, what do you say?
I agree with that. And I just want to add something that's kind of linked to what we've been talking about is the housing. I think there's a tremendous pressure to open up for development around Astoria, around the county, because I know that, well, especially now that a lot of people can work remotely and they want to move into more rural area. And Astoria is a very, very desirable place to live. And there's a huge pressures of people wanted to move out here and more development to continue. So I ended up using a lot of resources. And I think one part of the resiliency project with the neighbors that are involved out here, I think a lot of people will have a distrust to what the county goal is for that, because we looked at that area out here and there's huge tract of land that could be opened up for development if that project goes through, especially with that road. That's definitely one a priority that I would like to see talked about. Yeah, and I think you're right. The agreement is that we don't need to have a monthly meeting if we can help condense the meeting into more of a maybe a bi-monthly or every 2 months.
Okay, Robert.
A question for dear leader. Have we had a flood of applications for the regional advisory committees? I noticed that the newspaper was seeking more, and I'm just wondering, have you gotten any applications since the latest request?
We've received two applications.
Wonderful.
So
thank you, dear
on the topic of
leader.
On the topic of meetings, it's like you just live on Zoom these days, but so I'm not a big fan of lots and lots of meetings, but at the same time, if we'll notice a pattern this year, planning staff tells us they're busier than ever, but we're not seeing any applications. So if we said, like, if there's no applications, we're not meeting, we could have a significant drop in our meetings. And what you'll also notice is that when we have meetings, people have plenty to talk about. So what I would advocate for is efficient meetings so that we can continue to get together, get updates, have discussion, stay involved in all these really important things that are happening that we're not necessarily seeing as hearings. You know, just have that opportunity, but try to, you know, just keep the meeting short and sweet and efficient, so that, and then of course we'll be seeing a lot of the comprehensive plan documents this year too. So we'll be needing to get through those in order to get, stay on task and on schedule for those things. And then if we want to discuss these special topics too, so if we really want to delve into affordable housing and transportation, parks, and I might clarify drinking water specifically, if that's what I'm hearing from people, then, you know, we'll need to have some time for that. And I feel like even in this last year when we were meeting every month, we didn't spend a lot of time on any of those priorities. So that's my 2 cents, is that, you know, I find these meetings to be really informative and interesting. And I understand from a staff perspective and from our own individual volunteering perspective, it's a burden to have a monthly meeting, but I still would advocate that we continue doing so this year. I also want to just check in on, since we're talking about meetings. So I had, so Gail, Chris and I were talking about, you know, how long we're going to be staying online, and I'm hopeful that this will forever be an opportunity for us and the public to participate, doing it online, but also we'll be able to get together again this summer or this fall. So we have another at least 6 months in this platform. But I understand if it is a challenge technologically, that it's possible for some people to come into the county. Gail, could you explain that to the group?
The only instance I'm aware of, well, 2 instances. One was when they swore in the new commissioners at the Boynton building last week. Also, I believe, Myrna, that your husband, I think it was Sam, who came in during the budget committees and sat upstairs on the 4th floor outside of the county manager's office.
That's correct.
Yeah, so Commissioner Gardner has asked Myrna if staff can provide you that option, and I guess anybody else who wants to come sit in the county building. I will remind you that under the governor's orders, we are limited to not more than 6 people from 2 households. We can certainly find ways to spread you out in the conference rooms throughout the building if that's what everybody would like to do. I guess also, Myrna, if I understood Commissioner Gardner's request correctly yesterday when she left a message for me, if there's anything that I guess planning staff can do for you technologically to help you hook up a camera, assist you in some way, then please let us know.
Thank you.
Robert might also be in that boat too sometimes. I'm happy in my home office, but I know, I just want to make sure that everybody has everything they need to be able to participate fully. I was also going to try to talk Myrna into the vice chair position, so it's easier when you can see everybody.
But I think getting back to the meeting situation and the frequency and the need for it, perhaps we should establish a meeting once a month, just a phone call, touch base with the chair and with Gail. And perhaps we could prioritize a meeting, to be discussed as to Gail can say, oh, well, we've got this, this, and this on the agenda. And then Nadia as chair could decide whether we're going to hold a meeting, whether it's really necessary. And maybe that's one way that, we could avoid absolutely a meeting every month. Maybe there'll be a month where we don't need to meet. So I'd encourage a monthly discussion.
That the chair has that power.
Go again, Robert.
I don't think that is within the scope of the chair's power to make that kind of decision.
That's correct. I have in the past done that, and back 20 years ago, I think I had that contact back and forth when we were trying to prioritize things. And I think it's a good means to discuss that to help the county staff figure out, what we're going to discuss and what's prioritized and what they need to get done, and because they've got limits, they've got time constraints. So I think it's good that the chair can work with that and either call or dismiss a meeting. That'd be a good thing. So any other comments on that? Any other comments at all?
Just to be clear, it is not the chair's function to set the agenda or to decide whether or not there is a meeting.
No, it's a discussion between the chair and the staff to see if there's a necessity for a monthly meeting.
But it is not the role of the chair to make that decision. It is the role of the Planning Commission in toto.
Correct.
Sorry. So just to clarify, since I am the chair, I will be the chair. So could staff make that decision?
No.
So could we as a group empower either staff or the chair to make a decision for a period of time?
No.
Well, you might have to get a legal opinion on that. See where you go.
Robert, would you like to have monthly meetings?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that is not a.
Well, I don't know.
It is not.
I don't know the legalities.
I just think it's
of it.
The county parliamentarian. I don't even know if he still exists.
Yeah, this gentleman, I'd like to say that. Well, excuse me. Is he incapable of hearing that I am speaking right now? I don't think I'm on mute.
We got a crossed wire there. Go ahead, John. John, please speak.
Okay, I don't have a sufficient grasp at my fingertips of the parliamentary, protocols here, or the charter, or whatever guides the discretion of the planning chair. But I would like to see somehow a way of empowering the chair and the staff to make those determinations, because it's not an all or one proposition to have a meeting every month, or to have meetings only when there are applications to be reviewed and voted on. So for the times where there are things we really need to comment.
Getting two
can I please finish? I'm speaking right now. Do you mind terribly if I finish what I'm saying?
So that the vice chair.
I'm not going to be shut up by a guy that refuses to listen to me finish. I'm almost done. Your patience is greatly appreciated. So what I know there's opposition here. I just want to let my viewpoint as a planning commissioner be known, and then the decision will be made. And that if there are, I encourage the planning commission to discuss matters of substance and importance. And if it so happens that they happen every month, so be it. I'm fine with that. I want to do my job. But I also would like to see the possibility of an exercise of discretion by the chair, who has been voted unanimously and whom I trust, and the staff, who I really appreciate their efforts and want to be sensitive to the demands on their time. Go ahead, take it.
So if you're going to do that, I think that probably you need to have staff ask the question of county council to make a decision on what the powers that the chair has, and we'll get that sorted out. So I would definitely recommend that you ask staff to research that with county council. And then that'll
as a start, just look at our bylaws, and I think probably they say that we are supposed to follow Robert's Rules of Order.
That's fine, but let's get county council to make a decision on it.
I agree.
Does it take county council
I agree that you should have county
to
council
read
make
the
a decision.
frigging bylaws that says follow Robert's Rules of Order?
I would like to say, may I speak, please? I agree with John. I think that if acceptable by the county council, that the chairman and the staff should work together on deciding whether or not we need to have a meeting.
Thank you, Myrna. So Robert, anything else you want to say?
Do we know what Robert's Rules of Orders, does it actually address on point the question before us? Does Commissioner Strickland or anybody else know that here?
I certainly have looked at them, and I think it certainly does address what the functions of a chair are and vice chair.
So Commissioner Strickland, is it your opinion that the question is answered by simple resort to a particular Robert's Rules of Order provision? Or is it just a matter of
yes. That we start out by looking at our bylaws, which says we are to follow Robert's Rules of Order. And then I think it'd be great for us to chip into a kitty to buy Nadia and John their own copies of the current edition of Robert Rules and Order, and encourage them both to peruse those two documents so that they don't inadvertently abuse their newfound powers.
Well, all I can say is
that was an abuse of power in the past when.
Yeah, but Robert, you've got the service
when the chair would set the agendas.
So I'd advise county council to make a decision. They're there to keep you out of trouble. Anybody can read Robert's rules and interpret them a different way. But if you get a decision made by county council, they are there.
But not to do stupid things like look at a copy of Robert's Rules of Order.
Robert, I'm happy to look at Robert's rules and
the county council didn't.
So let's just meet next month, and we'll do some work on it in the meantime and figure it out between council and our own readings, and we'll figure it out for the next meeting.
Well, I have a couple comments. One is Larry Taylor was the parliamentarian for the county commissioners, and he does know a lot of parliamentary stuff and a lot about Robert's Rules of Order. We could request that he attend the next meeting briefly, since he can do it by Zoom, and maybe give us his thoughts on it that could help set the thing. But I don't think we have to make such a big deal out of this. I think one way around it would be to, yes, have the chair and the staff meet, Gail probably, and figure out whether there are things that are important enough to bring us all together for a meeting, and then put out an email if it's not going to happen, if it's felt that there's no need for a meeting, leave it open to anyone on the commission to say, hey, wait a minute, there's something really important that I want to discuss, and I propose that we do meet, and then we just decide based on that whether enough of us feel like it's warranted. That way you don't lock out any commissioner. That, each of us is in our own realm. We have our own interactions throughout the month. We have different feelings about different issues and the importance of them. And so I think it's worth hearing in a way from all of us, at least at some level, to make the decision whether to meet or not. I frankly, when in doubt, say meet, but if clearly there's just no good reason to meet, then then definitely let's not meet. I'd rather be out walking in the rain right now.
Okay, so are there any other comments? John, go for it.
I happen to have not the most recent edition of a volume called the Manual of Parliamentary Terms and Procedures. It's I don't know, it looks older than me. So this is the edition by Ms. Lillian Hollister of Detroit, Michigan, Supreme Commander of the Ladies of the Maccabees of the World, Treasurer National Council of Women. So, but it does look like the parliamentary procedures. But I'm thinking the bylaws will probably give us the guidance we need if such exists. But I also am in accord with Commissioner Farrar that let's be flexible. Let's communicate. Let's communicate between meetings on that, and maybe we can just take a vote. Should we have a meeting? I mean, if it does seem like there's things that need to be discussed, and there are things that are maybe not getting the attention they need, like our 5 priorities, for example. We could use meetings where there is an application to really dig into the priorities, provided we have, some insight on how best to use our powers and our advisory powers to greatest effect. If we're just barking up a tree, then maybe that's not so wise. That's all I have.
Okay, any other comments? Any other discussion items? Well, hearing none, I'd make a comment. I'd like to thank you all for your support. And especially, I would like to thank Julia Decker. She and I have been trudging on this road for, I'm not sure, Julia, I think it's 28 years or thereabouts that you and I have been working together.
Pretty close, yeah.
All right. And just to put one little fact forward, which I'm kind of proud of. In that time period, I have only missed one meeting. I've attended every meeting over that time. I don't know how it's happened, but I have. And there was one meeting that I did not attend because I was not notified that there was a meeting. But I put that out there and I say, when you get to a position like this in the county, take it seriously and really put some effort into it. Don't treat it as a coffee counter conversation piece. There's a lot of work that the county needs to be done, and I really appreciate everybody who steps up and volunteers their time. But I think it's a very valuable thing to do. And I'm very pleased with the time that I've spent here. I've learned a lot and I've met a lot of very interesting people, and I thank everybody for their support. So anyway, continue on, and I'm going to sign off. And now that I own a house in Texas and I own a house here, I'm going to be flying backwards and forwards. So I thank all of you for your support. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Before
Thank you,
everybody,
Bruce.
Thank you,
goes,
Bruce.
I did want to introduce Jason Pollock, who's our new planner. He's been listening into your conversation this morning. Jason started yesterday, and Jason, I don't know to put you on the spot, but did you want to say anything or give any of your background to the Planning Commission?
Oh, just want to say hi to everybody, and I think that's about all.
Okay.
Did he take the place of someone else, Kale?
Victoria Sage.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and thank you, Bruce, for all your service. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I've learned a lot from you, so thank you.
Well, thank you. The same here.
Thank you to Bruce. And
Yes,
also,
Bruce, watch out for the rattle. Oh, excuse me. Watch out for the rattlesnakes and the other form Ted Cruz.
Well, I've kind of got that figured out. I've been going down there for 42 years.
Right on.
Bruce,
Okay.
Sam and I